Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Randall George Nazawa, the Bounce Back Blind Guy, and welcome to New Enlightened Lifestyle Medicine. Oh, please welcome our co-host, Patrick Herbert. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Today we're talking about fake food that will kill you. That's right. Okay. And why this is important, because this is, we'll start on two levels here. Food, as you know, is nutrients, okay, can be medicine, okay, and it's also spiritually based. Well, what's all this? Well, you have to look at this too, because food was given to us for humans, especially to eat, so we can live. And as far back as even 2,000 years ago with Hippocrates, he said that make food thy medicine and medicine thy food. Okay. And unfortunately, our medical community has missed out on that, because in food, natural food that comes from the ground and from animals that eat from the ground, is that they contain nutrients. They contain combinations of nutrients in the right proportions that can heal. Have you noticed, say, plants with all the different varieties and colors? Each color has a reason for that color, and when we eat them, they affect us in different ways. And when I say it's spiritual, is that each of these plant sources, animal sources, they have a certain vibration, and they match up with the vibrations of our different organs. And so there's a special harmony there, and a planned system. And who planned it? Okay, some kind of ultimate intelligence, infinite wisdom that put it all together, where what we eat matches up to what we have inside of us and can heal and balance all our imbalances. Okay, so there's a spiritual component to that. Now, so you all know, food is broken down into these small mini packets called exosomes. And these exosomes have a certain vibration, and you can also call it microRNA, much like any of the, some of the viruses that are out there, okay, so microRNA. And what they do is that they convey not only nutrients, but information to all of our organs. So what that means is food that comes from the outside of us, from the ground and from the animals that live out there and the animals that feed on those plants, they bring information from outside to our inside. So it's communication. Okay, so it's more than just the proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, and the vitamins and minerals, that they bring in information. Okay, and plus, within our system here is what we call a microbiome that many of you know about, but that consists of viruses, bacteria, yeast, fungus, mold, and parasites. Yes, you're full of parasites. Okay. But they live communally in a commensal neighborhood. Everybody gets along, and there's balance. Okay. And I'll tell you here, without viruses, and we spoke about this earlier, is that you will die. You will die. And it is the bacteria that's in us that makes a lot of the vitamins that we have. And this is called, as far as bacteria and viruses go, called the shikimate pathway. And did you know that your bodies are 99% not human? That's right. You're 99% not human. And this is normal. This is what makes us human. And it is these viruses and bacteria that work together in conjunction to turn on and off our genes. Okay? And so this is why there is balance in our world. And we're going to be talking about food today because the substance nourishes us. Okay? And most of the food comes from the ground. We call them plants. Animals eat the plants. Insects eat the plants. Okay? And there is a special system there that was ordained for us, and we continue on with it. When we're in balance, we live a long life. We can recover from injuries. We can recover, and we can live in a thriving situation and not just existing. What has happened with modernity, and Patrick, you'll speak on this here in a bit, is that we're not eating food anymore. We're eating fake food. Some people call it frankenfood. You've heard of GMOs, genetically modified organisms, otherwise genetic engineering. What we're eating now, our bodies don't recognize. Okay? And they were putting in different type of genetic sequences in our bodies called the fake food or frankenfoods. Our bodies can't recognize, but what happens to that is that changes our own DNA. It changes our genetic structure and causes gene mutations. And we cannot adjust quickly enough. So what happens with these gene mutations is that we get sick. And because of our Western medical system, any doctor you see here will check for your symptoms, but they never ask how those symptoms came about. They just want to alleviate symptoms. So the food we're eating, the frankenfoods, are some things our body cannot recognize, and it changes our own genetics. It makes us sick. Okay? And the longer you live, and you're also collecting different types of toxins. Since 1900, there's about 100,000 new toxins that have been created, and only 1% of them have ever been researched to see if they're even safe. And we have them all in our bodies. Like I was telling you previously, Patrick, is that your young daughter, who's 3, almost 4, she was born with 200 or more different type of toxins donated, to her from your wife. Not intentionally, but living in modernity, this is what we all have inside of us. And so this is why it's critical that all of us eat food and use food as medicine, and this makes medicine our food. So we can do a lot of self-healing, and we can do a lot of curing of heart disease, of any kind of stroke that happens, of preventing and curing cancer, preventing and curing diabetes, preventing and curing MS, preventing and curing Alzheimer's, preventing and curing arthritis, preventing and curing lupus, all inflammatory diseases. Okay, and we can do this, but if the food is good. But what's happening is that the fake foods, the frankenfoods, have taken over the supermarkets, and the population out there, are used to this because of the marketing and how we're being brainwashed. Because it's fast, we want cheap, we want to get what everybody else gets because that's what the herd is. And we've been conditioned this way. Now, before I get you started here, Patrick, is that there is this because of the marketing out there and the selling of the junk food as normal. I'll tell you this one about this one company called the Institute for it's Institute of Food or Food Science. And it's a company that's funded by Coca-Cola. And you say, what is this? So this company is a worldwide marketing company that sells you on the value of junk food, sells you the value of the fake foods, and that you need it, you want it, and it's very good for you. Okay, and so this is funded by Coca-Cola. And who is a major investor in Coca-Cola? Bill Gates. Kind of weird. I learned this a little while ago here. I go, why would a guy like that fund Coca-Cola? Well, you have a situation here where this junk food is something that makes those people in this type of the junk food business more money, but in the overall picture, it weakens human beings. It weakens us. Okay, and the more we're weakened, oftentimes we can't stand up for ourselves. See, this is how you win a war. If we were in a war of any kind, you weaken your opponent. Okay, they can't fight back. And how do you weaken them? You get them sick. with crappy food. Okay, you stick them with these injections that have mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde, mutated monkey virus, in there, and grown, in animal cells that mutate and have cancers. So you get injected by these kind of things, and we call that safety, and then prevention and all that, and makes us more sick and things like that. And you flood us with electromagnetic radiation, EMFs. Most of you will know that as 5G, and not for faster communication, but more for surveillance and data accumulation. Okay, so I get to ramble off here now, but here in this segment, we're talking about food, clean food, where it was meant to not only nourish us, heal us because it's medicine, okay, but also is a spiritual connection, grounding us, to the earth. So Patrick, here, take this away here, and let's kind of review about. Tell the audience a little bit. Let them review a little bit about, you in your younger days as a, hotshot, software engineer, and what you did, back when, as far as your nutrient consumption went, and I think not too much different than what a lot of other people do out there that get sick, and you did it to the extreme. You did it well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But and then things occurred from there, and one, I'm glad you're still here, because you poisoned yourself for quite a while and you still live. So anyway, can you go over that story, and then from there you take off in your segment?
Yeah. So, as is typically the case with people who spend the majority of their time in software development, and everybody familiar with it knows this. It's also in our culture, in movies, where you've got the programmer who is a lot of times either extremely skinny or overweight. And I'm talking about the cinematic programmer, the Hollywood version. And they're always, and of course some of these stories are all taken from us. I mean, that's, from us being that example of bad eating habits, sitting in front of a screen, under the same fluorescent lights, pale, tons of open Coke cans around us, popcorn, candy, McDonald's bags. I mean, that is a very common theme when it comes to people who spend the majority of their time on computers, or at least when 10 years ago or so. So I was your just cookie cutter perfect example. Nothing particularly special about me except for the combination of Adderall, which in a very unnatural way kept me in front of the computer performing as much as I can for the purposes of, fun, in a funny way, making my boss more money just to get my paycheck, but at the expense of my health. So, the easiest thing that anyone can do when they're hungry is hop in the car and they drive over to one of the fast food restaurants and get their fast food and drive back home and eat it. Eat it as fast as possible because you don't really care. You're just eating literally just to keep going. You're eating because you got hungry. You're not really thinking about it. At least I wasn't. The majority of my focus and attention was always in the software and the programs that I was working on and the programs that I was writing in a hyper-focused kind of way. So, over time I began to accumulate health conditions, especially since I would only drink Coke. Rarely would I ever drink water. I would buy a 12-pack of Coke a day, and miraculously somehow managed to not get diabetes. I don't know even how that was possible. So coffee, caffeinated drinks, Coke. I would also go to the Monster energy drinks and the other ones, which are chemical soup. What is the Red Bull, the most famous one? Yeah. And so, and of course eventually all caught up to me. My body, my mind, my soul was all breaking down from this onslaught of toxins, including the pharmaceuticals and things like Adderall and antidepressants. And of course, smoking didn't help either. So eventually, I started to get dangerous conditions, particularly with regards to my lungs. emphysema bulla, but I didn't have emphysema. I just had this lung condition where I had blebs, they're called, all over the top and bottom of both lungs that there were so many of them and they were so big. I was a unique case not seen before. And they took care of that. I had a wonderful surgeon, and he managed to they couldn't cut them out. They had to do, specific procedures to preserve the lung, because if they cut them out like they typically do, they wouldn't have any lungs left. So after that shakeup, I changed my diet and changed my habits. It took some time. I had to learn, and that was the thing. Why isn't this common knowledge? You spend your life growing up in America, and every commercial that you see on television usually involves a Happy Meal or kids eating at McDonald's, the smiling clown parading around with all the happy friends, and McDonald's and this and that, and soft drinks, just sold to us in mass and in massive amounts of quantities. And you don't hear the truth about diet. You get the food pyramid, which, when you look into it, is actually not healthy. It's mostly constructed by corporate interests that drive profits in agriculture and meat processing and farming, of course, mass farming. And you realize that that's who's dictating, just like you say. It's Bill Gates invested in Monsanto, Bill Gates invested in Coca-Cola. You've also got some senators, and Monsanto lobbies the government for their genetically modified, agriculture, and under the guise of it being sustainable development, which story that we've talked about with regards to our Agenda 21 video. So you were being robbed of the knowledge of what is an actual healthy diet versus what is a corporate diet. And what makes money, you're being robbed of concepts such as local farming, which is true sustainable farming, true healthy living, true organics, and family raised farms and such. And you're denied that information, and instead, given the corporate version of it, which is the supermarket, the Kroger, the Walmart, where they get from big industry, big industrial farming and big industrial agriculture, which is tied in commercially with Monsanto, their genetically modified seed, and Roundup, and the herbicides and the pesticides, because under the guise of feeding massive amounts of people through these supermarket chains, we have to therefore have massive amounts of fields, and no farmer can stand there and personally pick weeds, so we need to spray the living daylights out of it with toxins. And how do we kill all the weeds and not kill all the plants? Well, we use genetically modified seeds, and how the story goes. And then this is what ends up on our grocery store shelves that we buy, and we're unaware of it. The vegetables look beautiful, don't they? They look incredible. You've got shiny, waxy apples. You've got strawberries the size of a fist now. You've got, and I'm sure there are some strains, but I always just think it's funny when you think of genetic modification, you think of, things become abnormally large or whatnot. And they're picture perfect and they never go bad. And you've got this, perfect looking vegetables and this and that. And it looks great. And for a health oriented person, you're going and you're buying this and you're going, okay, yeah, I see this. This is great. I've got my veggies, but they're like the most toxic vegetables ever. And of course we covered that as well. So anyways, based on my own story, one of the things I thought that would be really worthwhile, that might be fun to do, is to literally to just talk about what happens in detail when you do consume something like McDonald's. So I've come up with we're going to call it a scenario. I'm calling it Event 202 because Bill Gates already took Event 201. Yep. In Event 202, we have a simulation where a family of 4 or 5, they opt out for the ease of throwing everybody in the car and going to get McDonald's. And of course, we've got a couple kids, we've got a couple teenagers, and we've got mom and dad. And they go up to McDonald's and they get the Big Macs and the Happy Meals and the this and the that, and they get their tubs of corn syrup, Coca-Cola, and and they get all of that. Their French fries that are. We have to talk about every component of these foods because you've got food preservatives, You've got genetically modified vegetables, things like the tomatoes and all the other things, and the also the potatoes. You've got them, when it comes to French fries, you've got genetically modified potatoes being cooked in or oil that is derived from genetically modified sources such as soy and corn. Then you've got, the bread, which is sourced from genetically modified material. You've got the meat, which comes from mass big agriculture, big farming.
Yeah.
And you've got those farm animals under torturous conditions to mass produce it being fed genetically modified material, such as genetically modified corn and all the other things they feed animals. So this gets into the meat. We have also the addition of corn syrup, which itself, also coming from corn, is sourced from genetically modified organisms, genetically modified corn specifically, obviously. And wow, that's quite a bit of toxicity if you think about it. There is no level that remains untouched in that whole juicy looking hamburger that you have. You've got genetic modification in every quote unquote food group of there. You've got the meat, the bread, the vegetables, all of it. And so so we got and plus our tub of corn syrup in the form of Coca-Cola. All right. You probably, off the top of your head, can list 20 or so diseases that this diet can cause, But let's go into detail, Dr. Randall. I'm curious personally to know, especially since I'll be working with Aaron, our partner at Cloud right now.
You outlined it so well. But what you've done, because you're so thorough, and one, I'm glad you're alive because, it's you're just become a very dear friend, but you should be dead by your doctor.
I know.
And so, what you've described is that you've been eating poison, but the food industry, hijacked by marketers, has called food. Mm-hmm. And so we all have been, all of us have been hijacked that way. So it's because faster is better, tasty is better, and you've got scientists out there that are taste scientists to make things taste better. So you go back and buy the same things, and when everyone starts to getting sick, and you go to your doctor, and they don't quite think it out because it's Western medicine. They'll say, take this pill, take this pill, take this pill, and and what is this for? Oh, well, it's going to make you feel better. What if it doesn't? Well, come see me on Monday. I'll give you another one. Okay, but what's happened is that for you and for the average person, just statistics. Right now, the average person in the U.S. eats about 150 pounds of refined sugar a year and 140 pounds of refined flour a year. Okay, so it's we've become a race of sugar eaters. Okay, so what's that? Well, before what you had mentioned with the refined sugars, like the corn syrup, and it's called high fructose corn syrup, and it's pervasive in almost all foods, is that before we were metabolically more flexible, meaning that we had a higher fat diet. And the wrong marketing that was started in 1951 by Ancel Keys is that he declared that it was fat and cholesterol that made us fat and caused heart disease. He lied on his research. Okay, but however, he was such a good marketer himself that the food industry bought into it. And so what happened, and you had mentioned this too with the food pyramid, is that all of a sudden the industry and those people that make the policies for what we eat as far as nutrition goes, they said we need to eat more carbohydrates, and that should be more like 60%, 65% of our daily calories, and from there it's very low fat and moderate protein. And what happened after that is that more people started to get heart disease, heart attacks and strokes. More people started to gain weight, have higher blood pressure, higher blood sugar, which means they became either diabetic or more diabetic. And currently, right now, in our country of 350 million people and more, 122 million are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. What does that mean? Is that high blood sugar, and we become insulin insensitive. We can't use insulin very well, so we can't uptake that sugar. Okay, and what does all that extra sugar cause? Is that inflammation. And from there, what's inflammation? Well, all those diseases you've mentioned. Okay, cancer, heart attack, diabetes, lupus, MS, okay, arthritis. And any kind of disease you can ever imagine, and it comes from this fake food, the Frankenfood. So here, let's start at the beginning. You eat, you go to McDonald's and you get your burger and things like that, and so that, number one, genetically modified, so your body can't recognize it, and there's a lot of toxins in there with the glyphosate and the herbicides and the insecticides and also antibiotics. What factory farmed animals are fed is the herbicide and insecticide type of things that are sprayed on primarily corn and soy, which they're fed, and animals like cattle don't usually eat that. They usually eat grass, and they're out in the sun. But these animals are indoors. They stand, shoulder to shoulder. They're pooping and peeing where they stand, highly stressed out. So there's a lot of stress hormones in there, and we talk about cortisol in humans that makes us anxious and stuff. And that's what's in these cattle. So not only do they have antibiotics in them, which help them grow faster, plus keep the disease down, because they are standing and poop and pee, right? And for them to get this meat to market, and McDonald's is the highest producer of cattle in our country. So anyway, you're chewing, and your saliva has got amylase in it, which is meant to break down all the carbohydrates that you eat, and carbohydrates meaning things that are basically sugar, and there's in vegetables as well as fruits, that those are good sugars because they're complex, because they come with fiber and a lot of vitamins and minerals. Your McDonald's burger does not. Your McDonald's burger is GMO. McDonald's burger has antibiotics in them and glyphosate in it, and now you're chewing it, but it tastes good. Okay, and so you swallow this, and it hits your stomach, and what's happened over the years that your stomach acid, which should be more 1.5 to 1.9 pH, is not, so you can't digest your foods well. Okay, and you can't digest. It's meant to be acidic enough to kill bacteria, the pathogens that should not be there, but they get through because of the differences in how we eat now, because we eat more frankenfoods than regular foods, is that the acidity of our stomach acid decreases, so we can't digest foods well. And one of the major reasons, what we call GERD, gastroesophageal reflux, is that we can't digest food, so that stuff bubbles up and burns our esophagus, and then from there our medical industry tells you to take these antacids, these things that will decrease the stomach acid, so it's even less effective. So it makes you worse. And recently, that you've got the FDA saying something like Zantac, which has become really popular for reducing pain, causes cancer. So guess what? Look at that. Because the FDA doesn't research things, they want to rush things to market. But anyway, so that's in your stomach, and from there it hits your small intestines, where things are broken down. And what happens is that not everything is broken down. And now you've got those things that what the animal ate is now in you, which is Roundup, the glyphosate, which causes endocrine disruption and causes cancer. and causes inflammation, and you have antibiotics that the animal ate, so you're killing your gut bacteria, which actually does most of the digestion. And like I told you, before, we're made up 99% of viruses, bacteria, yeast, mold, and parasites, and all that, and they live in a commensal balance. And you just thrown it all of balance, and now the genes, the good ones that should protect us, don't turn on, and the genes that are bad for us gets turned on. So we're out of balance. So now you have in your gut this fake food, your McDonald's burger, which tastes very good, by the way, going down, and it makes you want to get more of it because it tastes so good. And of course, you're going to get your McDonald's fries, and which has got the glyphosate on there too. But McDonald's fries taste good, and you've got maybe cherry Coke or something like that, and sugar, and I call it poison. You're poisoning yourself. And the other is you getting it from the drive-up window. You don't even have to get out of your car to get all this stuff, and you're feeding the entire family, and they're all happy. And so what you have all these poisons in your intestinal lining now, and they're in your gut. 80% of your immune system is the stuff that has all the white blood cells and things like that is supposed to be our savior, our protector against invaders or pathogens, and we can't. And now this immune system is compromised too. Now, all this stuff gets into our circulation because it causes inflammation and swelling of the gut. So, what we call tight junctions in our gut, and it's only one cell layer thick, opens up. And all that escapes into our circulation are these macromolecules that should be contained in your gut, but they're not anymore. They're circulating in your body. And what does that do? That stimulates your immune system, and they send out things called cytokines, inflammatory cytokines, because they've been alerted that there's invaders in your body now. And actually, you're invading your own body, and all these macromolecules should be stuck in your gut, but they've escaped. So now you're attacking yourself. Okay, and that's what's called an autoimmune disease, and we have a lot of them. And the ones I mentioned: heart disease, your heart. Okay, diabetes, cancer. Okay, lupus, arthritis, all the ones I mentioned. That's all because of what you've eaten. Because of the frankenfoods, you've caused inflammation. You're attacking yourself. Okay, and this over time repeats itself. You get sicker and sicker and sicker, weaker and weaker and weaker. And our medical industry is one that gives you pills to try to alleviate the symptoms. Okay. But it doesn't work all the time, and it is a never-ending cycle. You keep on taking more pills, and what's medication? Okay, they're actually GMO type of products because they're made up in a lab. They're not supposed to be in your body. Okay, on a short-term basis, like antibiotics especially, that could save your life. Okay, but when you take antibiotics, so and you've already eaten a lot of it, with the animal products you've eaten, especially a McDonald's hamburger, is that it kills your gut bacteria, and so now you cannot digest foods, and it becomes even worse and worse, and it causes inflammation. So this never-ending cycle. You keep putting these toxins and poisons into your body, and now it's in your gut, and what is supposed to be protecting you. All those microbes you've killed off, and you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And if you've noticed, from the 70s on, before there are very few incidences of, say, like peanut allergies. Now they're really common. Before they're in 1 in 1,000 children. Now they're in 1 in 12 children. Peanut allergies. I never heard of it when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s. Now it's so common anymore, and you can't go anywhere if you're sending your child to another home to make sure that they don't eat peanuts. So, just something like that. Allergies, asthma. Everyone's getting asthma. Okay, in the 1970s, that was rare. Things like autism, rare. Anymore, it's common. Autism, 1 in 32 kids. Okay, and a lot of it is with the diet, what you're eating, because we do not include food. Okay, so now you're digesting, and it's through what's called the migration mechanism, is that and peristalsis, that food bundle that's supposed to be extracted of all the nutrients there. Some of it is, some of it's not. But also the toxins that you've eaten in that burger, is now circulating in your body, and that bolus of waste moves into your colon, where a lot of the microbes are there to extract more and more of those nutrients. Okay, they get paralyzed because of all the toxins that it's in this forming of eventual waste that's going to leave your body. And so now you're depressing those valuable microbes, and actually causing an imbalance in their colonies. So that's how come that especially in the United States or in the Western world, that colon cancer has become much more prevalent. And what's down there next to the colon is the prostate. And prostate cancer has become very common also. And before you poop the thing out, if because of our lack of fiber intake, it sits there and festers and festers and festers, and this is how you grow out of balance, and you encourage cancer to grow. Okay. And remember too that those your microbiome, the gut microbes, you've killed off with the antibiotics, and with all the types of biocides that you've eaten, so you can't digest anymore. Okay, so now the good genes aren't turned on. You've got the bad genes on, and now you're prone to cancer. Okay, and so from there, you're trying to poop this stuff out, and now it won't move because it's like a big rock of crap sitting in you. And right now, for each American out here in our United States, you've got anywhere from about 7 to 10 pounds of crap in you. So when they say you're full of crap, you really are. Okay, and for some people that are just meat eaters, and just the junk food, fake food eaters, a lot of them have 20 pounds of poop in them, and it's a sad case because intentionally we consume this fake foods, and it's making us sick. And no one says anything about it. And with our Western medicine system, is that you're given a pill for an ill, and it supposedly should alleviate your symptoms, but often it doesn't. It makes you sicker and sicker. And go back to the example of the Zantac kind of thing. You got upset stomach or gas, bloating, GERD, and they give you this pill. Now they find out, and FDA approved, right? It causes cancer. Because you rush the stuff to market without testing it, okay, and it's all for profit. And so what I've described to you in general was what happens when you take something in through your mouth, and it goes out the poop chute there. And what happens is that all the nutrients, if it was food, should have been extracted. Okay, and then delivered to the right places in our body for repair and for longevity. Okay, but like I said, regular food has certain vibrations, and that's why it's spiritual, that they match up to different type of organs in your body, and because of their balance, and how it was meant to be, that should heal us from any kind of injuries, or to make sure that the old cells are replaced with new cells. And then we get to live in harmony, and while we're thriving, which means that we're also doing a lot of physical exercise and keeping stress down. Stress meaning that in the very old days, stress was meaning that you encountered a saber-toothed tiger, and you had the opportunity to either run, to stay and fight, or to give up and freeze and die. And so that's the sympathetic fight or flight system, and you had a choice. Now in our modern day modernity here, and which is money driven, and Patrick, you've lived through that, with becoming a successful computer programmer. You sit down, you stay up for days, you don't sleep, and sleep is healing, and also helps detoxify you. You stay up for days, and you drink cases of Coke and eat McDonald's, and you accept your body to last and to thrive. And what you find out, that eventually it's going to find this peak where it's going to start to decline, and there you've experienced that. You get sicker and sicker and sicker, and for you, your weak link was the lungs, because you were smoking also. Okay, and it's I think a good and bad thing, and you always say two sides of the same coin, which is really true. You got a chance to get surgery on yourself, and surgery is not always the best thing, but it does save lives. But that slowed you down some, okay? But because you could have died, and you had fear of them. And so what that did was that it stopped you in your tracks, and from there you started to make wiser decisions. Okay, and then from there, Rachel came into your life, and life became different. However, for the average Westerner, the average human that say lives in the United States, they're still on that treadmill. Got achieve, got achieve, got achieve. It's the American dream. Got American dream, and so it's money driven. It's not happiness driven. It's money driven. Nothing to do with the spiritual wellness. Nothing to do with growing your soul. It's growing your bank account at any cost. Okay, but now what's happening is what you experience. Eventually, your body, especially your gut microbiome, is going to give up because it's not in balance. It cannot digest foods. You cannot get any nutrients out of there, and you're out of touch from our earth. And the spiritual microscopic side to that is our earth gives off electrons, and by being out in earth and in our earth and taking natural foods from our earth, those electrons match up to all the free radicals that we have in our body, and so you slowly get rid of them, so we end up in balance and in health. And so enzymatically in our bodies, that is disrupted because of the toxins and poisons we put in there. You add continual stress in our lives, where you've got cortisol and adrenaline in our bodies that are prolonged there and not taking back up. So that increases the amount of sugar we have in our blood. So we become diabetic or pre-diabetic, and you increase this accumulation of what's called advanced glycation end products, which means that your blood gets sticky, and it's got little prickly things on them, so they clog, and causes things like neuropathy, or you got pain in your extremities, and such like that, and tells you that you're out of balance, and now you've got circulation problems where you're just injuring yourself based on the poisons that you eat. Okay. And if you can live a while, that's great, but when you get ill, what you usually do is you're going to see your Western medicine doctor. And those guys are there to dispense drugs, pills. They're not there to cure you, because if they cured you, you wouldn't come back and they wouldn't make any money. So you take all these meds, And once again, your body cannot digest these meds. For a short period of time, some of them are life-saving, and that's for certain. But food is meant to be medicine, and medicine to be food. Okay, and it should be clean food because it's something that your body can recognize, and it was meant to be there, and as medicine, as nutrition, and as communication. Okay, so here we are right now, and we're in the situation where we have this thing called a coronavirus. Okay, and like I've said earlier, without viruses, you will die. And new viruses come up every so often and will continue to do so, but our bodies were meant to recognize them, okay, create antibodies against them, and to protect our organism. Okay, and so viruses are needed for resiliency. So my contention is, don't be afraid of the coronavirus or anything like that. And yes, the coronavirus is, from all accounts, laboratory made, and we can go into that later. But a lot of evidence pointing to that. However, our best defense against that is eating clean food, because that supports us and supports our immune system, which is 80% held in the gut. This is how you beat the coronavirus. It is the food that you eat. Okay. And what happens with good food is, like you were alluding to earlier, Patrick, is that the smaller farms become more prevalent and more valuable. And eating clean food becomes more valuable. Say, wow, I don't have the kind of money to eat organic all the time. But yeah, you can. There's always a way. Talking to your neighbors, buying in a co-op or a group. Okay, contacting these farms, say, hey, I've got a whole neighborhood to feed, and what kind of thing can we work out? There's always a way to eat clean food, and I think if there's any good that's come out of this coronavirus thing, is that should unite us all, and have us work as one team, because we are a team. And instead of being splintered and working against each other and competing against each other, how about working together? That's where we have our strength. Okay, because when you start using food as medicine, it does work and it does heal. And we have to get past, just the bad marketing, and because the marketing is very powerful, because it persuades us to buy junk. It persuades us to poison ourselves intentionally, and we do it well, and then we get sick, and then we just inundate the healthcare system, and then that's near bankruptcy too. And that they don't heal us. Okay, and so it is up to us to be a lot smarter than that, and to use videos like this and information like this, and to do your research. Also, just don't believe me. Do your research, and figure it out yourself, because you're sick for a reason. And here, and just to let you know that the 70% of people in the United States are overweight, and many of them are obese. And here's the thing, is that the fatter you are, one is that there's a cosmetic thing to that, but also there's a decrease in health for that, because the more fat you have, fat actually gives off or creates a hormone called an adipocyte. Okay, and what that is that that hormone deregulates your body, because a hormone or adipocyte hormone called leptin tells the body if you're hungry or not, or full or not, and if you're satisfied or not, and that throws that balance off, and now you keep eating. Okay, and so you didn't know that, did you? Fat grows a hormone, and what that does is that's dysregulated, and you get fatter and fatter and fatter, and it's not only a cosmetic issue, but you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker because of the fat content. Okay. And what are stored in fats is toxins. Okay. Because the fat cells are geared to protect us. okay, the ones we have. But they collect toxins, and they have a lot of them. And so now you're full of these things that make you sick. And this is why you never get well. You never get well. Okay? You exercise and you try to diet and you can't lose weight. And you're kind of wondering why, and you're trying to find a better trainer or a better diet. And there's thousands of diets that come about every year, and everyone tries it. They never work. Clean eating works. Okay, loving yourself works.
You know, I don't mean to interrupt you, but before I wanted to point out about when you were talking about obesity, and I think this is really important, is the majority of these diets contain artificial ingredients. And those artificial ingredients, sweeteners, artificial flavorings, they trick the brain, because the way the brain works when it comes to your diet is your brain's already hardwired for essentially your entire experience here. And one of those things as the food you eat, and that your body's requirements nutrient-wise are triggered through the brain's desire for you to eat or be hungry for something, such as folic acid will make you, if your body is needing folic acid, you will of course be hungry for something that contains a lot of folic acid. So when you eat these artificial flavorings out there, and this is one of the causes of obesity, and I've done a little article on this, and your brain's tricked into thinking that it's gotten the nutrients. So, but you're still hungry, because that doesn't, the lie doesn't, the trick doesn't last very long. So you ate a bag of Doritos, which has got all this spectacular artificial flavorings in it. So your brain suddenly feels, okay, well, yeah, all right, good, you got it, you nailed it, this is good. It's, you're triggering a release of certain chemicals in your brain to give the impression that, like dopamine and such like that, that you're getting what you need. And then, maybe 10, 15, 30 minutes later, you suddenly find yourself hungry again. Well, I don't know why. I'm hungry again. So what do you do when you're hungry? You go and eat. So eating more artificial flavorings. Your body's being tricked even further. And there's a lot of artificial flavorings in everything, including fast foods. So you're getting this massive amount of calories, but you're not getting any nutrients. So your brain is completely tricked by this, and like everything that has artificial flavorings in it will mess your brain up in that regard. So it does cause obesity, because you're always continually hungry. And if your diet is really poor and really crappy and dependent on all these artificial ingredients, it's the amount of crap in the food is astounding. It truly is, and the tricks that are going on, right down to your calorie intake requirements being dictated through, like you were saying, these corporate and industrial, means. They're telling you what you need, not your body telling you what you need. And they've got everybody confused over this diet and with their fake pyramid and their fake, and all of that stuff, and then the artificial flavorings. And yeah, that is a huge contribution to obesity. That's all I wanted to inject there. I'll give it right
like
back.
I said, I'm glad of, you've researched a lot of this. And like I said, what we're trying to do here is inform the public, of this, because, just going back to what you said, flavorings and the color dyes, okay, they're all GMOs. They're petroleum products. Okay, and it does trick your brain. And when we talk about cravings too, now, because we've become more sugar eaters, and because it's cheaper and it's just satisfying to folks to eat more sugary things, is that with that increased intake of the 100, on average 100 50 pounds of sugar a year, and 140 pounds of refined flour a year, is that you create more bacteria for it. Okay, and then you throw out the balance of the bacterial colonies in your body, because now that there are more of those certain type of bacteria that want to eat sugar. Okay, and it crowds out some of the other ones. So now you've got an imbalanced gut microbiome, because now you're craving sugar all the time, and nothing satisfies that, because this is because of your gut is out of balance now. You've got these hungry critters that just want sugar, and it's all the time. And you've experienced that yourself. as a computer programmer that doesn't sleep. You eat all the junk, and you eat, drink, those cases and cases of, Coke or whatever you're doing, there, and so you perpetuate that, and you silently getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and then you add cigarette smoking, to the mix, and eventually your body will give out, no matter how tough you are. And so this is, and I brought up a thing with the coronavirus and the viruses in our body, we do shed viruses every day. That's what we do, and then that takes information from our insides and puts it on the outside, and then we take in viruses every day from like I said on our last show, from animals, plants, the trees and bushes, from water, and from the dirt, from the rocks. And so that's information from the outside that communicates with our inside. Okay, so we need viruses. And so there is a balance. And because of the toxicity of, all those 100,000 toxins that are out there now that we have not researched, and all the toxins and, those injectables that I had mentioned earlier, with the EMF, radiation and all, our immune systems are under attack. We cannot protect ourselves. We get sicker and sicker and sicker. But this segment primarily based on food. What you can do for yourself to heal yourself is start eating good food. I mean, it's very simple that way. Eat good food, and if it's a cost thing, there's always ways to work around that too. Like I said, get into a co-op, get your neighborhood together, and buy the good stuff in bulk if you can from one of those small farms out there. And one day I'd like that Yonder Way Farm to get on the show too, and to show what they're doing. But they're a clear example on this one farm where you live down there in Houston, Patrick, is that that they're trying to offer the public healthy food, and that they can keep the price down, when more people buy. But the other part too is no matter where you live, is apartment, home, or even if you have no space, you can start growing your own food. Either a small garden outside, or grow it indoors in small little
community
pots.
gardens even.
Yeah, exactly. And so get everyone there, so you can actually stay away from buying the commercial food that has got all the herbicides and insecticides on them and all those poisons. Grow it yourself. Okay, and start small, one plant. And what you'll find is that you get more nutrition out of that, say that one tomato, than what you have on the store shelves. Because what has happened in the past 50 years is that say a carrot grown 50 years ago in soil that was, topsoil that had all the nutrients in it, all the vitamin or the minerals and all the enzymes in there, the nutrient content in that carrot was a lot higher. Now it's not. Okay, and one, it tastes differently. Well, as far as what I've been told, because of the nutrition deficit. And so what you're eating now is, you can still call it a carrot, but there's not enough nutrients in them, or as not compared to 50 years ago. Okay, plus the added, the added junk, like all the biocides in there, and you get that. So not only is food having less nutrients in them, they have toxins in them, and it's making you sick. So this I think. One, make it a commitment for yourself to eat good, natural, clean foods, and you can do it. And when you think about price and all that there's ways to do that inexpensively, but you have to look at the flip side of this, is that you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting sicker and sicker, and wondering why, when you can cure yourself. Because your bodies are magnificent. They're magnificent creations that was meant for balance, and food was out there for us to eat. But a lot of what's out there now is not food. It's fake food. It's frankenfoods. It's making us sick. And you can heal yourself, and you can heal yourself right now. change what you're eating, change your habits, change your ideas of what you put into your body, because your body is truly a temple, more than a cliche. It's really a temple, and you only got one of them. You've got one of them right now, and if you want it to work at its best capacity, to its fullest potential, you got to put in the right fuel. And so clean food, pesticide-free, biocide-free, herbicide-free, antibiotic-free. Eat clean food, and you're going to see that it is truly medicine and a lot of nutrients you can use, and it is a spiritual connection that I think a lot of us are missing, especially in this time right now, where this virus thing is in the headlines all the time. Okay, you can beat it. We can beat it. It's what you eat and your attitude about things. And it's like, that there's when you talk about the source, and this is spiritual, not religious, is that we all come from love. We just do. And you're an expert at this, Patrick. So we all come from love, and it's time we start loving ourselves a lot more, by putting clean food into it. So we respect, the environment, and respect ourselves.
It can be, it can be explained fairly well through, using an analogy plus considering harmony. And, most disease comes from disharmony, or the word, right. The root word is, you roll it back, you'll go to disease, yep. Disharmony, anything that falls out of a harmonious interaction. And like you were saying, Dr. Randall, what we eat in our bodies, we want those two things to work synergistically. We want them to be harmonious. Now consider your car. You have a car that is constructed and built a certain way for a certain fuel type. Some are cars that are built with diesel engine, and some are for regular unleaded fuel. Now, you try to put the wrong kind of fuel in your car, and what's going to happen to your car? Your engine's going to struggle. It's going to really struggle if it doesn't just go ahead and go kaput. It's going to struggle. And if you don't maintain your vehicle, what happens to it? It starts to break down. It starts to wear and tear. Your belts get worn. Those break. And slowly everything starts to degenerate. And including what you put in the car and how you take care of it determines whether or not it's going to be running optimally or not. Same thing with your biomechanical vehicle, as I call it, your body. It is also a machine, and this machine, it comes from here, comes from the elements. It's put together from all the things that your mother ate, all the nutrients, all the thing, and the genetic programs that are running, the cell division, everything. It's all, and that is happening in a synergistic way. And then you come out, and this, everything in your brain is hardwired for everything that you experience here, with collections of neurons and synaptical connections that represent certain things in a kind of a holographic way. And that includes foods, diets, all of that stuff. So like whenever you say, Dr. Randall, when you're talking about the genetic modification of things and then consuming that, well, that's like putting whiskey in your engine, thinking that, well, that's, it's flammable, so it should get my car to go. It should get my, try it and you might go a little bit, but then, things are going to start to break down. Same thing with oil. You have to have oil going in there to, to keep the things moving. And if you don't change your oil, if you don't take care of that, if the oil gets dirty and stuff, the parts stop moving. It's the same thing with your body. And your bodies are designed for the most natural, because your body is natural, isn't it? You don't have a synthetic body, do you? You don't, and so your everything that you're designed to take in is going to have a one-to-one harmonious existence with nature. And if you sever that harmony, then comes disease from disharmony. And that, you can call, and harmony at the end of the day is a frequency, just like everything else. And so that harmonious frequency, the synergy between the food and everything we eat, and the optimal functioning of our bodies, and the rhythms and everything about nature, from the sun rising to setting, all of it is a part of that big interconnected harmonious play, and you want to keep it as harmonious as you can. And so, yeah, that's all I had to add on it. The car analogy just really seemed to fit there, because it's true. You can, you can get by with all sorts of stuff that you put in your car engine, and it will run, but it's going to fall apart if it's not what the car was built for. And the same thing with the body, with the way that our bodies are built. It wasn't built Monsanto. It was built for what nature provides. So that's all I've got.
No. Eventually that car will break down.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there you go, oh crap. Now what?
And then by that time, it's like, and just like a car breaking down, well, when it comes to your body, you can't get another body. So you got to fix what you got. And, you can fix, and you can get that car back together. There's nothing that keeps you from being able to fix that car and get it running optimal again. It's based on what you do and what you put into the car. If you start treating the car good, start keeping it clean, keeping the oil changed, start giving it the fuel that it was actually built for, and then and not drive it responsibly, not recklessly, then you've got a brand new lease on your car's life, a brand new lease on your own body. Just like with me, I came from a pretty bad place, very broken down, and because everything kind of came at the same time, a big boom, and this was also going on at the same time. My personal life was falling apart too. So I had my physical life falling apart, my personal life falling apart, my physical body. So, and the stresses associated with that. But now, after making all the changes and living a life of love and compassion, living a life of harmony, living it with making sure and thinking, being very conscious about what I put in my body, thinking about the health, even that, because at the end of the day, everything is frequency, everything is energy. So even those thought patterns contribute to the harmonious functioning of your body, because it truly is, it's spirit over mind and mind over matter. And that is a very important thing to consider too. So, if you also are aware that you're eating crappy food, well, not only is that crappy food, because it's crappy food, going to have an effect on you, it's going to have an effect on your subconscious mind too. And it's going to bring about all of this illness. So you owe it to yourself, who is ever watching this video right now, knowing what you owe it to yourself to eat healthy, because if you don't, there's going to be that element of you, and this is where the change is going to happen. There's going to be that part of you that goes, oh crap, I just watched Dr. Randall and Patrick, and I just went to McDonald's afterwards. And so this is a good thing, because it's all it takes is a spark of awareness like that for it to begin to trigger the change. And one of the things that they do here, one of the things you're not aware of, you're sold on this convenient lifestyle when you're still Hercules and you still have that mentality, because nothing's happened to you. You get up, you go, you're a high school student, you just got your license, you run track, you've eaten anything you've wanted to, a Dorito sandwich stacked with everything else on it, and you're fine. So you've got that mentality. You're young, you're healthy. So you don't really can't worry about these things. You just, everybody else is drinking Coke, super gulps, extra gulps, large gulps, whatever they're called these days. Those giant bathtubs of Coke or soft drink and all the energy drinks, this and that, and then you get to a point where you're going to realize that you're not. And if you catch it early on, if you do have the awareness early on, man, what you can do with that awareness and in eating healthy and contributing to your own harmonious sustainability. For the most part, we're not lucky, because we end up ignoring it, and then something happens to us which initiates the change. But it's never too late, which is one of the most important things that Dr. Randall expresses frequently to everybody, from my mother who has MS to myself, to his, and considering in his own life, and he's in the best shape he is now. It's never too late to stop the car and start taking care of it. It's never too late. And you can, even if you're 75, even if you're 80, you could make such a turnaround, and you could be feeling as physically fit as you ever have, just by eating healthy, just by thinking about eating healthy, just by taking the right steps to eat healthy and making sure it's pure organic food. And it's never, ever too late, ever. And there's no sickness that cannot be remedied. There is a cure for everything. There truly is. And and like Dr. Randall, who has taken 2 serious head injuries and keeps bouncing back stronger than before. And now living the best years of his life, eating the healthiest, working out with weights. I mean, I don't mean to speak for you, of course, but based on our conversations, you always tell me, that, how good you feel and how great everything is. So for anybody listening, it's that simple. It really is. And harmony is the key. Harmony is, and love, harmony is all a frequency. And when you think and you become and you act within those frequencies, that's what's drawn into your experience. So take it from me, who's lived it. I've lived these radical extremes, which to my benefit. I mean, the extremes were diametric opposites. From being the most unhealthiest person on the face of this planet and Big Pharma's best friend, to being, now the healthiest that I've ever been with my diet and not having any pharmaceuticals and drinking water and feeling the best I've ever felt with most energy. That's the funniest part, because when I was going through everything and eating that diet, I needed to take that Adderall and those stimulants in order to keep going, because my body wanted to shut down. It wanted to go to sleep all the time because it was exhausted, even just but I would artificially keep myself going until finally I couldn't anymore, just a testament to the human body, how much it takes until it finally gives up. I was able to sustain that very unhealthy lifestyle for 15 plus years. So, and then finally until I couldn't do it anymore, but now better than I've ever been, after those surgeries and everything. And that's within everybody's reach. Literally, all it takes is just changing your mentality and then acting appropriately and just harmonious. Who doesn't want to be harmonious to their body? So, especially if you are sick and experiencing ill health and sickness, it's coming from what you put in your body 3 or more times a day. And also from this electromagnetic poisoning, but that's a story for another time. Yeah. Anyways, Dr. Randall, I didn't mean to go on like that, so I'll hand it back to you.
No, I mean, this is a good place to finish up. But everyone, make food thy medicine and medicine thy food, because it is truly healing. And guess what? When you start doing that, you take back control of the food supply. Okay, you take it back from Monsanto. You take it back from Dow and DuPont. You take it back from all those people that want to control the food supply and poison you, because you start supporting these farmers out there, the ones that do the produce and the natural proteins, with cattle, with pork and with chicken and all that, and because they're fed what they're supposed to be eating, which are natural foods. And when you have the cattle eating grass and outside in the sunshine, they're less stressed. They're getting vitamin D, like all of you should be getting, from the sun, and you're eating healthy foods. And there's no poisons on your produce, on your vegetables, and you're getting all the nutrients in those foods because the soil is being regenerated. Okay, and you benefit from that. And so there's a harmony in all of that, also better health, but you're also gaining control of the food supply back, and that's under your control. So, please go look into this, contact us if you need any more help, but start looking around in your area for farms and for farmers out there, because we need more of them. And like I said, I'd like, Yonder Way Farms to get on the show here, soon. But for all of you out there, you can heal yourself. And this is a very important time, because we're at critical times right now, because all of you are probably locked in your homes, right? Okay. And what's the easiest thing to get? Junk stuff, because you can call up and order it. Pizza. Yeah, and from there it's like, but now you're starving, okay, and you're feeding that sugar monster, you're feeding the toxin monster, and you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. Isn't it time to get well? And isn't it time to change our world by changing, yourself and what you put into your body? But anyway, thanks so much, for hanging around. And I think this was a very important, a video, our message to you. You can heal yourself. You can. Okay, and it's what you put into your body. So make that food clean and wonderful and good, and you're going to end up the same. Okay. Hey, thanks so much. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.